Hello, everyone, and welcome to the last episode of the SCOOPS VFLW Game Changer Show for this year. The 2025 VFLW Premiers was crowned. The North Melbourne Football Club have gone back-to-back in the VFLW competition. Is that an omen for the AFLW side to do the same? In the same week that North Melbourne's AFLW side broke a record and won by 100 points, had the biggest winning margin in AFLW history, biggest score in AFLW history for 114. Then the AFLW side won in stellar fashion as Stella Reid, for 4.5 minutes to go or so, about 4.5 minutes to go, kicked the match-winning goal when the scores were level, and Stella done what Stella performers do, and that's have a stellar game. Stella Reid, the match-winning goal, played forward this week. Obviously, he played mainly as a backman this year. Had swung forward from time to time. Brett Gawley, when I had him on the podcast, the premiership coach, two-time premiership coach, might I add. Brett mentioned about moments where they throw Stella forward, and it was a genius move from Brett. That's why he's a two-time VFLW premiership coach. That's why the Roos have gone back-to-back. And it wasn't without heartbreak for the Pies. It's just, it is what it is. Unfortunate what happened for them, but North are just too good. Now, on the show this evening, we're going to go through that grand final in more detail. Scoops is bang for the last time on this podcast this year. I'm going to go through my VFLW player of the final series of votes in terms of who got the votes for the grand final, my 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and who won the overall player of the final series for me in season 2025. That and a whole lot more. So I'll start off with this, including some club reviews as well that I haven't done already. I've done 4 clubs in the past. I'd already done the Western Bulldogs, Darebin, Casey, and Geelong. Well, for a long time, I'd been saying, actually, I want to mention some news at the top. Now, I had been saying for a long time the Bulldogs need to make change, and Rees, their coach, needs to go, and he's been sacked by the Western Bulldogs, and they've told him that he's no longer required there. It's the right move. Finally, Bulldogs have made the right move. You lose so many star players, your best players. You play in a grand final series in 2023, and then in 2024 rather, you get beaten by the Roos just. Then you have Sarah Skinner leave, Jamie Henry leave, Dom Carbone leave, Courtney Ugle, Mia Clifford, and there were some others as well. Off the top of my head, they're the names I can remember. Sarah Skinner went back to Tassie. Dom Carbone is the Collingwood captain and won the league best and fairest last year. So I've been telling you late last year that this move needed to happen. And it's a year too late because I warned them that this was going to happen. I did say this time last year that they needed to change the coach, and they didn't. So for them, instead of getting rid of the coach, they lost all their big name players. Their best player this year was probably a mixture of Jamie Tabb and there was no standouts. Tamsin Crook was all right. Sarah Sinetti actually was their best player for me. Now, Jamie Tabb won their B&F, which I'm a bit surprised by. I thought Sarah was easily going to win. She was second or third with Georgia Livingston. But I said Rees had to go. He was the big problem there for that side. You don't make a grand final, then lose your captain and league best and fairest winner in Dom Carbone to your arch rivals in Collingwood, who, funnily enough, made the grand final and lost. In that aspect, like they lose their captain and they lost with the Bulldogs and lost with Collingwood. Bit of rotten luck for Dom Carbone there, I guess. But for Rees, he lost Dom Carbone, their best player and captain and league best and fairest winner. They lost Jamie Henry back to Perth, who was underappreciated. I could clearly tell because she was recruited as a midfielder, played midfield, randomly got thrown as a key defender, and then wasn't to be seen after her best game as a key defender. Didn't play the final season. She left. And she made the right call, clearly. She dominated for Swan Districts in the WFLW. Is a contender to win the league best and fairest for the WFLW, Jamie Henry. So that's another mistake Rees and the Bulldogs made. Talia Porcino, who was a regular small forward, she left. Sarah Skinner was one of their most experienced former AFLW players, playing in Tassie now, and has apparently done well there. And there was a few others they lost as well. So, I mean, it was just a mess. Yeah, Courtney Ugle and Mia Clifford, who are now both premiership players at North Melbourne on the weekend, and both played. So that's just some of many the Bulldogs lost, and they didn't really acquire many players at all. So I knew they had to go. He had to go. And I said the disconnect from last year, and I got scrutinised and laughed at by so many people that support the Bulldogs. And, well, who's laughing now, huh? I also said you wouldn't make the finals series. I said you'd be lucky to come close. You didn't even make finals. You had a record of 1-6 in games this year with AFLW players in there when you tried to cheat the system and stuff other teams up that way, and you failed at that. And the only time you won a game was against Port Melbourne, which I was at, because you got lucky that one of the Port Melbourne players hit the post from the boundary. Had that gone in, there was like 10 seconds left, so they would have won. So you would have been 0-7. But you got lucky there. So the writing was on the wall last year. Even through last year, mid-last year, I've been adamantly saying he had to go. He was a big problem. No one listened. And finally, the Bulldogs have come to their senses and made the right move for once. He's a big reason why they dropped off. He's a reason, and a good reason, why they lost Dom Carbone, Jamie Henry, Sarah Skinner, Tali Pulcino, Corny Ugle, Mia Clifford. That's 6 of your best players you just lost. And your captain and league best and fairest winner. It's just like saying that Jazz Garner or Amon Conti is going to leave Richmond or North. That ain't happening. But it happened in the VFLW for Collingwood, to Collingwood from the Bulldogs for Reese's mob. It's not his team no more. I've seen their statement. I've seen his statement. He was sacked. Underperforming. And absolutely they underperformed. But that's what's going to happen when you lose all those players. So that's that. Now, Williamstown have parted ways with their coach, Liam Kavanagh. Was this one a bit of a surprise? A little bit. You know, they were saying about, which I find a bit bizarre, Liam was talking about only a few days before the sacking or parting ways that he was looking forward to next season and he sees the growth in the players and everything like that. Then they parted ways with him. This one is not as deserving as the Bulldogs one with Reese. This one was a bit of a shock, to be honest. I mean, if they kept him, I wouldn't have said anything. I would have said, okay, that's fine. But I'm not really going to say anything either that they let him go. You know, it's just, you know, it sucks. I don't own Liam at all. Hopefully he's all good with it. He might get the Bulldogs gig. We don't know. He might get an AFLW thing at some club in whatever role. Who knows? He might not be in any team next year. Who knows? Might be in a different role at some other club. We don't know. But they got a new coach. I thought Liam done all right for what they had. They had some injuries along the way this year. Their captain, Eliza Strafford, didn't play many games this year. So, I mean, they did okay. They were never going to win the granny, though, and maybe they just know that they're not getting anywhere, stagnating in the middle part of the ladder or just scraping in for finals. So they needed to make change. When the year prior, they made like the prelim, I think, but they were never close to winning the prelim, so they were just making up numbers. So something had to change, and that's the change that Williamstown had gone with. Like, if they kept him, I would have said, okay, but they got rid of him. You know, time will tell if it's the right call, but it's not an outrageous call, but we'll see how it goes. Now, please welcome the world-famous segment, Scoops Goes Bang. Boom. Right, last Scoops Goes Bang for the year on this show, and it's going to be a big one. So last year, the grand final between the Bulldogs and North Melbourne in the VFLW was on Channel 7. I went to that game. It was great. This year's grand final was scheduled poorly. Every single person in charge should be embarrassed. The promotion was hardly there by the competition. I keep hearing about the men's wildcard round that no one could give a solitary shit about. I kept hearing about all that. Don't care. You have a women's grand final on that is far more important than a wildcard round that's not even a finals matchup, and I don't give a shit what round it is. It's not as important as a grand final. And then to top it all off, the shit they've done this year, not caring about the fans, it's all well and true. I've had plenty of people from clubs to players to fans to other people involved that are pissed off with the scheduling and have said the same things I've said. They don't give one shit about what I think, what you think, what any of the family members think, what any of the players think. They only care about themselves and their egos and their pockets. Because if they gave a shit about us, they would have done what we asked for. And just remember, it's not just me. It ain't just the family members. It ain't just random people. It's the players. You don't have a competition without the fans and the players. But the people in high up positions don't give a shit about you, me, or anyone else but themselves. And they've shown that throughout the year. And Channel 7 have also clearly shown they didn't give a shit about us at all. Because why wasn't this on Channel 7? It was last year. It was meant to be on 7 this year. And even if it wasn't, why not? It was a great success last year. So why wasn't it on Channel 7 this year? I wonder why you're catering to people that don't matter as much as we do. I had people who wanted to go to the game who couldn't go to it, like myself, because it clashed with AFLW and everything else, because the competition, the VFLW competition committee, don't give a shit about me, you, or anyone else. They could have put that game at 1 o'clock. There was no AFLW at 1 o'clock. The first game was at 3:05. So, when do they schedule the VFLW Granny at 3:15? Absolute morons running the competition. They don't give a shit about me, you, or anyone else. I wanted to go to it. I wanted to go to the AFLW game at 3:05 and it's VFLW Granny. But nah, they're stupid and clueless and clashed at the exact same time. I had plenty of mates asking me, are you going to the VFLW game? Are you going to the AFLW game in Geelong or the one at Moorabbin, or you go to VFLW Granny at ETU? I'm like, I'm going to an AFLW game because I care for all competitions, but they're making me choose one or the other. I shouldn't have to choose one or the other. I should have the ability to go to both. You had a whole day on Sunday from 3 p.m. onwards that you could have done it. Why couldn't you do it on Sunday at 3:15 p.m.? Don't give me this bullshit that North Women's AFLW was playing in Perth. They weren't in Melbourne. And even if you want to use that reason, Collingwood were playing Sunday at 1 o'clock. So you could have played it at 3:30 or 4 o'clock. It ain't that hard. ETU has lights. Think. You don't think. You just talk shit and make shit decisions. This game should have been on Saturday at 12:30 or 1 o'clock. And that would have meant that it finished before any AFLW game in Victoria, and you guessed it, before any VFLW game or before any AFLW game in the whole competition. And if it clashed with an interstate game, then so be it. But the first Victorian-based AFLW game on Saturday was 3:05 at GMHBA in Geelong and Moorabbin in Melbourne. They were both 3:05. The grand final would have finished at 2:05 had it been at 12 or thereabouts, and 3:05 if it started at 1:05. Use your brain. You don't have one clearly because you don't use it, so you don't have one. Or you just don't give a shit, which you don't. The scheduling was pathetic. The coverage, outside of me, following the competition and knowing a fair few people, I saw a bit about it through players and the club's pages. But the competition themselves, I hardly seen them promote anything. A few little clips here and there. It's a grand final, not a practice match. You should be promoting it. You don't know how to promote anything. I mean, if I didn't cover this, you probably wouldn't have known there was a VFLW grand final on the weekend. Because the scheduling was pathetic from the committee, people making these fixturing decisions. If I didn't say it, or any players promoted it, like I know a lot of players were trying to promote it a lot, because the competition themselves did stuff all. You did stuff all promotion. You put one post on the Monday saying when the grand final is, and maybe the day of saying, oh, the grand final started today. What about throughout those 5 days? You did absolutely nothing. Not a damn thing. That's embarrassing, and those people should lift their game. It's pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. Hope you all enjoyed that last edition for the season on this podcast for the world famous segment, Scoops goes bang. Alrighty. It's now time to go through my 2025 Scoops VFLW Player of the Final Series Awards. Now, these are the votes for this round. Right here. Right now, I am going to be revealing the winner in just a second. The votes for the grand final first, and then we'll do the other one straight after. So the grand final votes for me. The grand final votes. North Melbourne, Renee Tierney, 1 vote. North Melbourne, Sarah Ingram, 2 votes. North Melbourne, Maddie DeCosmo, 3 votes. North Melbourne, Charlotte Ryan, 4 votes. Collingwood, Jade Anthony, 5 votes. Collingwood, Dom Carbone, 6 votes. North Melbourne, Nike DeJock, 7 votes. Collingwood, Talia Sanger, 8 votes. North Melbourne, Stella Reid, 9 votes. North Melbourne, Alana Barber, 10 votes. So, they are the votes for the grand final. Alana Barber, Stella Reid are at the top of the list. It's, what's that mean for the overall ladder? I did say it's not on average. It's on most points. But it is what it is there. So let's put the votes on the screen for you all now to see when it decides to let me click on it. Yeah, there we go. So they're the votes for the grand final. Comment down below what you think. You know, I think it was self-explanatory that they were clearly the best players in the granny. Sanger was Collingwood's best player as she is every week. Well, most weeks. In my eyes, the inaugural Scoops VFLW medal winner for a reason. So, now, let's now go through the winner of the Scoops votes. For the VFLW player, so let's see, Scoops VFLW player of finals series. Here we go. Alrighty. So let's see who won. It's going to be a good one. All right. 1 vote. Now, this is the entire leaderboard, might I add. So 1 vote for Emily Eves, 2 votes for Sarah Ingram, 3 votes for Rosie Dillon and Lucy Thompson, 4 votes for Isla Baldwin and Renee Tierney, 5 votes for Emily Prosser-Shaw, Courtney Jones and Jade Anthony, 6 votes for Tess Cattle and Charlotte Ryan, 7 votes for Annabelle Embleton and Jess Matten, 8 votes for Stacia Stevenson, 9 votes for Maddie DeCosmo, 10 votes for Millie Peck, 13 votes for Nike DeJock. Now the top 14 votes for Paige Price. Now the top 5 are this. In 5th place on 15 votes, Stella Reid. In 4th place on 16 votes, Dom Carbone. In 3rd place on 23 votes, did not even play in the grand final, or her team didn't, Matilda Van Berkel. In 2nd place, 2 votes ahead on 25 votes, Talia Sanger. So the winner on 29 votes for the Scoops VFLW Player of the Final Series Award, it is from North Melbourne, Alana Barber, who was best on ground in the grand final. And there's the votes for the entire final series. Alana Barber, Talia Sanger, Matilda Van Berkel, Dom Carbone, Stella Reid are the top 5. So, I mean, North Melbourne playing every game did help. Collingwood missed a game, so Talia could have won. Van Berkel missed a game, so she could have won, and they were the only ones that could have won with one more game. So, I mean, it is what it is there. Congratulations to Alana Barber for winning the Scoops VFLW Player of the Final Series. Now let's go through that grand final, shall we? Now, by the way, the VFLW Awards night is September 15th. Now, I was wondering why the hell is it so late when the season finished last week and you're going to wait another few weeks. Now, I had spoken to somebody that knows, and it's got something to do with the men's program as well. So there we are, catering to the men's league as well. But I think they normally do it like that regardless. But here we are. That's a whole nother argument for another day. Now, so we're going to review the 2025 VFLW Grand Final. The Roos 34 to the Pies 28. You know, a bit of inaccuracy going around. Stella Reid was really good. But Barber and co, Stella Reid were just amazing. Sarah Ingram played a part. Charlotte Ryan, as she always has, Nike to Jocks, a couple of goals of her 11 or so disposals. The Cosmo was solid through the midfield as well. But yeah, it just is what it is. It was a great win for them. They'll be really happy with the grand final victory. I thought Tale Sanger and Don Carbone and Jade Anthony were some of the Pies' better players. Courtney Jones and Millie Peck are two key players in their side. Didn't have major influences to what they've had all season. Molly Eastman was an emergency, and I could not believe they did not pick her. Very bizarre. This may have been an Ellie McClendon example where she hadn't played for 8 weeks or so. They put her into the final. They made her miss the first final. They got through to the semi-final, played her then. Then I believe she got injured because she only had one touch, and that was in the first 10 minutes. Then never to stat since. But see, if it was covered properly, when you can't watch 50 games at once, I would have known the definitive answer. But Ellie's a good player, so that wouldn't have been the case of her just having one touch for a whole game. And she's their captain for the reason at Box Hill. But yeah, well held. Well held was Millie Peck and Courtney Jones, and Molly Eastman not playing is a bit of a surprise. Maybe they saw what Hawthorn did and didn't want to take that risk. But Molly was worth playing for me and could have been the difference. Considering they lost by a goal, the Roos have a dangerous forward line. Renee Tierney could have been a great matchup for Molly Eastman, or even Nike to Jock. So it is what it is there. I also thought, players that had some good games. There was a fair few. I mean, like Jade Anthony, a player that hasn't played much footy this year for Collingwood's VFLW side, had a really good game. Had about 6 intercepts or something like that. Just played a part. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough to get her team over the line. But congratulations to Brett Gawley and the Roos for being premiers again and going back to back. The question now will be, will the Roos VFLW side go back to back to back? Time will tell. But that's the grand final for this year. Now, it was a great contest too, by the way, I should add. And Stella Reid's last goal with 4.5 minutes to go. There was no controversy at the end. I watched the last 5 minutes on the replay. There was no controversy at all. They won fair and square. So Stella Reid with a stellar goal from a stellar person and a stellar player. Stella Reid. Stellar performance in the grand final, kicking 3 and 9, playing up forward. Brett Gawley, he's the premiership coach for a reason. He knows what to do, and he would have thrown the Pies off with that switcheroo. And the Kangaroos are so happy, and they're bouncing up and down to Arden Street. So damn happy with their victory. Well done to the Roos girls on winning, and commiserations to the Pies. Now, let's now go through all of my other clubs I haven't reviewed yet with their season reviews. So let's go right now. Carlton is the first team I'll mention. They won 4 games. They were a bit better at the back end of the year because that's because they had their AFLW players. They weren't disgraced against Box Hill, I'll give them that. But they did have a few AFLW players playing in that game. But overall, the year was shit. If it wasn't for Amy Trinidad, Hannah Scott, so Amy Trinidad, Hannah Scott, and Nadia Von Batash before she was injured, they would have got smashed a lot more. They lost to Darebin late in the season when they thought they were going to win. They just didn't. They weren't that good. They kind of choked it. They had AFLW players playing in that game, so it's not good for them that they lost with AFLW players playing. But yeah, overall, Carlton had a pretty shit year. There's no sugarcoating it. But like I said, they had some players I just mentioned, and there'll be some others I've forgotten. Had some impact throughout the year. Lucy Burke was really good in that game against Darebin. There's another game I watched that Lucy Burke was pretty good at. She kicked a couple of goals in one game throughout the year, but probably needs to provide a better presence consistently throughout the year. She was a big name recruit from the Roos AFLW side. So that's Carlton. Port Melbourne, who finished 7th, they were 2 points out of the top 8 or top 6. Disappointing for them. Really disappointing. They're far better side than they've shown. They scraped. Oh, no, they didn't scrape in. They just lost against the Bulldogs at the end of the year, which basically cost them finals in a way, or a good chance to play finals. Now, actually, had they won that, they would have made it. It wasn't the last game, it was the second last game. So it was still disappointing for them. They needed results to go the way in the last round. It didn't happen. They beat bloody Casey in the last round. They had some solid matches. They had that draw against Sandy. But, overall, disappointing year for Tom and the crew at Port Melbourne. Obviously, they're much better than what they've shown. They did have some injuries and unavailability throughout the year. Georgia Booth had some footy stuff. She had footy, obviously, with Port Melbourne, but had some basketball commitments too with Bendigo Spirit in the WNBL and other basketball commitments she had. So she was a big out throughout the year. Caitlin O'Keefe was a really good player this year. Kate Adams had some good moments as well. Molly Mahoney in the ruck had some good moments. Caruso, the skipper, was out for a lot of the year, so they missed her. Overall, they had some good moments. I thought Maggie McCullough, that's it, had a really good year in the back half, in particular the game against the Bulldogs, which I saw that she did pretty well throughout the year in the games I saw. They got a good side. They got a good list. Ava Seaton's another one, so in that midfield. So they got the team. They just need to put consistent performances on the board and not lose those close ones like they did against the Bulldogs and the draw against Sandy. Otherwise, they would have played finals, and they would have done more damage than what Essendon and Williamstown and Sandringham provided. So Tom will be disappointed for how they went, but it is what it is. Essendon, they made the finals by 2 points, lost to Box Hill in the elimination final by a point. They could feel pretty stiff, actually, to be honest. They should have won that. Box Hill stole it late. Olivia Manfrey kicked 2 goals in that third or fourth quarter, and I thought that was it. And Box Hill just played well, just Matt and co. But Stacey Stevenson, etc., Paige Price, Matilda Van Berkel, could go on and on about how good Box Hill are. I'm surprised they didn't make the granny, to be honest. They said a form slump, which we'll get to in a second. But Essendon, when they lost Abby McDonald, I thought they're stuffed. And credit to them. They were shit when she was out with a 3 or 4 week concussion. They had that massive collapse against Collingwood at Vic Park. Sorry, not at Vic Park, at AIA Centre, which I went to. And I was with a mate of mine, and I said to my Collingwood mate, I said, yeah, they're screwed, Essendon. And he, for some reason, he got nervous. They were up by 5 goals at pos half. I'm like, mate, you ain't losing this. And I remember telling him, he's like, Scoops, we're going to lose this. I'm not so sure we're going to win this. I'm like, mate, you're safe. And, well, he was right. And they came back. And I think Essendon either hit the front or they were like 2 points down. And Collingwood got a late goal or something through Millie Peck was when she kicked 5 or 6. So, and 4 of those in the first quarter, might I add. One of the best individual performances all year from Millie Peck in that first quarter against Essendon. Abby McDonald, Elle Chastner had a milestone game this year. Olivia Manfrey, when she didn't have her softball commitments and other sporting commitments she has, and succeeding well at that, is Liv. She played really well. Layla Prince in the ruck I thought was pretty good. Jada Richardson had some really good moments before she was injured, unfortunately, with her foot injury late in the year. So got a lot to like, to be honest, with Essendon. Brooke Plummer came across from Geelong's AFLW, played her part in the wing as well. So, they got a really solid team. I thought Madison Ford was a really, really good player. Was in my All-Australian team as a key defender for a reason. Maddie was fantastic. Sharia O'Neill, they have a great team built there. But, they were unlucky. I reckon they could have done more damage than what Sandringham and Williamstown did, put it that way. But yeah, that's me for Essendon. Williamstown scraped into finals for me. They were just making up numbers, but they got there. And then, they beat Sandy, which wasn't a surprise, which I'll get to Sandy in a second. But Williamstown just going through the motions, I felt like this year they were behind the 8 ball with their scoring. They got lucky a few of their wins. I mean, the ladder doesn't really reflect on how they were. I don't think they really were this good. They had some results go their way, which helped them stay where they were, and other teams around them were losing. So they just stayed there. Like, I think Essendon are definitely better than them. I could argue Port Melbourne were better than them, who they only just made it ahead of. So, I mean, they got to be lucky. Their captain Strafford, as I mentioned before, was injured, which doesn't help at all. Neve Crowley was a good shining light for him this year. Ash Thornycroft is retired. Cat O'Brien's retired. I thought Ash Thornycroft was one of their better players, to be honest. Georgia Howes had some good moments at the start of the year in particular. So, I mean, there's some good shining lights there, but I just don't think they were too good overall. That's my review on Williamstown. Now, the next team to go through is Sandringham. They finished 4th in the end on 34 points, made the finals by 4 points, and they were only 6 points away from second, which is a game and a half. They started like a house on fire, but one credit I'll give Sandy is, one thing I'll give them as an excuse, they did lose basically all their AFLW, ex-AFLW players, like Erica Fowler went to Geelong, Lauren Brazzali went to Richmond. They lost everyone of their AFLW players, bar Sophie Locke, who I thought was the best one of their AFLW crop, or former AFLW players they had. Well, not the only one, but the main one. Sophie was really good. She was injured for a little 3 or 4 week patch. They thumped Geelong in Geelong. They won some good games early, but they got embarrassed by Box Hill, which I still think to this day, by like 80 points at Box Hill City Oval, that they were miles away from beating Box Hill in general. And Box Hill were the far superior side, not just in that game, but just in general. I think it was always only a 3-team race, and Sandy weren't one of those 3. It was obviously Box Hill and the 2 that made the granny, with Collingwood and North. Started well, beat the Bulldogs easily at Wynn-Oval, which was great. I thought, Izzy Hartog had her moments this year, who have had on the podcast in the past. Chloe Saltry, Tash Enwistle, before she went back to Perth in the last 4 weeks, was amazing. I thought Ash Patton, who came from SA from the Allies, was really good. DJ Jolloff had some moments as well throughout the year. Stacey Livingston, when she came across late in the season as a replacement player, she was really good. The former Collingwood AFLW key defender and veteran defender. She played really well against Footscray, or against Winton Oval, against Bulldogs. She did really well. Just overall, though, it's just the chemistry just didn't look like, not the chemistry, the belief wasn't there. They were just losing and scraping over the line, or just losing. I mean, to be honest, start of the year, scraped over against Casey and Carlton and Darebin. Like, I saw the writing on the wall from there. Lost the AFLW players. I thought they'd make finals because they started so well from a win-loss ratio, but I knew they wouldn't do any damage. It might seem harsh. They're technically my team, so, but yeah, I'm just speaking the truth about it, and they were making up numbers. They were going to get beat. I was so confident they would lose to Williamstown, even though Williamstown had bang average themselves. But yeah, it happened, and I told you so. Now, Box Hill were in 3rd place on 36 points. They were basically a goal away from making a grand final. I mean, how many times am I going to sing the praises of Matilda Van Berkel, Stacia Stevenson, Isla Baldwin, Paige Price, all the Box Hill players? Jess Matt had a really good year. Gabby Collingwood had some good moments as well. Annabelle Embleton had some good moments, in particular late in the year and start. But in particular, Isla Baldwin, Stacia Stevenson, 2 young stars who are in their 1st and 2nd year in the VFLW competition were just killing it. Paige Price, one of the best ruck in the competition easily this year. Matilda Van Berkel, the best utility, key defender / intercept defender / running half pack / can play forward as well. Could probably play midfield as well. And that's maybe something she could try and add to her game even more, to be more noticed for AFLW clubs. And all those names I just mentioned, Stacia Stevenson, Isla Baldwin, Paige Price, and Matilda Van Berkel in particular, and Isla Baldwin, should all be on AFLW lists. I'm putting my recruiting hat on. I'm giving a call to Stacia Stevenson, to Paige Price, to Matilda Van Berkel, Isla Baldwin, and saying, if I'm at a club, hey, we'd like to sign you up to our AFLW program, because that's what I'd be doing. Tully is saying it from the Pies as well. But unfortunately, I'm not in that position, but I would love to one day, because I know talent when I see it, and who should be on AFLW lists or not, or who get picked up that shouldn't, because there's been some decisions some clubs have made in signing over others, which just baffle me and go, what the hell? Not saying that players don't deserve it, but there's definitely players over them that much more deserve it. I mean, just look at who some have picked. But yeah, Box Hill, they had a really good season. They thumped Sandy. They've won a lot of games. They got lucky against Carlton late in the year. They were better, but, you know, they did what they had to do, but it was not convincing. Carlton, they should be beating by 60 points or 40 points. The final series towards the back end of the year, they were a bit inconsistent. So I was worried that they wouldn't pass a Collingwood or a North Melbourne. And, you know, it's disappointing. You know, some of their bigger name players that were doing well, they didn't have much support around them. But yeah, it is what it is with them. They were a good team. They'll be back up there next year, no doubt about it. You know, Stacia Stevenson had the ability to play midfield and forward, and Hemming had the ability to play off half back. In her first year was my most improved player because she was the best young player in the competition for me this year, along with Tale Sanger and Amy Trinidad, who got the Rising Star. Paige Price got the Scoops Respects Player of the Year award, who was a great ruck and a great person. All those players I just mentioned there are wonderful people. And Matilda Van Berkel should be on an AFLW list as well. It astonishes me how she's not. I don't see what some clubs are thinking sometimes, to be honest. And the two grand finalists, Collingwood. You know, they started the year like 0-3, 0-4. They won like 6-8 in a row or 8 of the last 9. And it's just like, wow. I wrote them off almost when they were 0-3. They had that Bulldogs game where they were a bit out of the game. They thought they could win it, and they didn't. But again, they had no AFLW players. Bulldogs had like 12, so what do you expect? But after that, bang, 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 beating everybody. They beat North. They came from like 23 points down at halftime against North, this year's premiers again, and beat North twice in the first final and in the season. Like, they owned North twice, but I knew third time's the charm for the Roos. So that saying means something because North ended up winning. So didn't work for North. Didn't work for the Pies at that time. So, yeah. You know, Talia Sanger, I mean, the best young player in the comp with the names I just mentioned before. How she is not on an AFLW list, I won't know. The inaugural Scoops VFLW medal winner absolutely deserved it. Mark my words. Absolutely deserved it. If next year's draft comes around in December, or when this year's draft in December comes around, and I haven't seen at least 2 or 3 of the following names drafted, I'm going to go mad. Talia Sanger, Stacia Stevenson, Paige Price, Matilda Van Berkel, Isla Baldwin, Sophie Locke. There's 6 names right there. And there's some others, of course, that I've mentioned throughout the year. If those 6, if there's not at least 2 or 3 of them drafted by this year's draft, I'll go crazy. Because they've done everything they could possibly do. Some of those girls are train-ons at clubs. But it just astonishes me how they cannot be drafted. Why aren't they being drafted? They need to be. Now, Molly Eastman's another name, a former Richmond AFLW player who had a great year as a halfback for the Pies. Millie Peck, amazing recruit from Richmond, playing as a key forward, kicked 5 against Essendon, had a few games where she kicked 4 or 5, and had a huge impact. In that final against North Melbourne in the first week of the finals, she kicked 3 or 4, I think. It was awesome. You know, I thought Gemma Ramsdale had some moments down in the back line. Erin McKinnon in the ruck was solid, not having massive numbers, but just doing her job at the hitouts. But Don Carbone was great in the midfield with Talia Sanger. Bella Clark was solid on the wing throughout the year. Lily Rose Williamson, before she was on the AFLW list, done well for most part of the year. Probably why she got drafted in the end to Collingwood's AFLW side, former Bomber. And Courtney Jones was amazing, the former Tiger as well. So they recruited really well. They played really well in the rest of the season after the first 3 weeks. I mean, they say it takes a while with the chemistry. I'm not buying that shit because some teams have new players and they go well from the start. So, but they did really well, and it's great to see them improve after round 3 and make a grand final. And just felt so short. They were 3.5 minutes away from going to extra time as well. So it is what it is. But they had a really good year, the Pies, and they should be happy with how they went. Obviously not with the end result in the granny, but it was only 6 points. Now the reigning premiers, North Melbourne, back-to-back. Alana Barber, Maddie DeCosmo, Charlotte Ryan, Renee Tierney, Nike DeJock, Kelsey Turns, Stella Reid, were all really good this year. They were all really good. Charlotte Ryan was amazing. Charlotte Ryan's another name that I think should be on the AFLW list. Caitlin Fletcher, who unfortunately is now out for the year for a hip injury, she was recruited to the Giants AFLW side through North VFLW. I remember when she was listed as an unavailable player after round 1 or 2, I'm like, this is interesting. She's going to be on an AFLW list. Giants had a list spot open at the time, and they picked her up. And she was one I saw in round 1 or 2, and I'm like, wow, this Caitlin Fletcher can play. Didn't know much about her at the time, but she absolutely warranted a spot on the Giants list. Absolutely. So she done well in the first game or two to play before she got picked up by the Giants. But yeah, they're the reigning premiers for a reason. They're a star outfit. They're the team to beat. They're the team to watch. They've got excitement everywhere. X-Factor players like Nike DeJock, Charlotte Ryan, Alana Barber, Maddie DeCosmo, Stella Reid, Reese Sutton's another one. There's so much talent everywhere. But yeah, they did really, really well this year. And for Boxall, also Tess Cattle was a player that did really well this year. But that's the Roos. And that's all my season reviews for all sides for season 2025. Thank you all so much for joining the first ever season of the Scoops VFLW Game Changer Show. But if you know any AFLW, VFLW, or any other state league players or draft prospects, and you want to see them on the channel in a Gold King Challenge and or interview, please do send me a message and we'll try and get something sorted. You can always come on the channel as a co-host on any of my shows that I do on this channel, or just any videos I do throughout the year. And if you're interested in being a part of the channel as a whole, please message me on the Instagram, AFL Info Live. I have about 4,500 followers on there. And on Facebook, Scoops All Things Footy 24/7, about 47,000 plus followers on that as well. Thank you all for watching this year's installment of the Scoops VFLW Game Changer Show. Until next year's episodes for this show, take care, but so much more AFLW content, AFL content, trade and draft news to come over the next 6 months before the VFLW season starts again. Thank you, and go Saints!